Hi, this is Alex from devstories.eu. OpenAPI and Swagger Ecosystem, Episode 15 of 19. A perfectly crafted JSON specification is useless if the developers consuming your API refuse to read it. You need to make it visual. That is exactly where interactive docs with Swagger UI come into play. Up to this point, we have treated an OpenAPI document as a raw text file containing endpoints and schemas. Swagger UI takes that JSON or YAML file and translates it into an interactive web page. This shifts the entire focus from writing the specification to actively consuming it. Developers can browse through endpoints, inspect query parameters, and execute live HTTP requests directly from their browser. It acts as a bridge between a static contract and a live testing tool. If you want to host this interface yourself, you will likely start with Node Package Manager. When you go to install it, you will immediately hit a common naming trap. There are two primary packages. The first is simply called Swagger-UI. Do not use this one unless you are running a build tool like Webpack or Rollup to compile a custom front-end application. If your goal is just to host the documentation directly, you need the package called Swagger-UI-dist. The dist suffix stands for distribution. It contains the pre-built, ready-to-serve static assets like the core JavaScript bundles, CSS style sheets, and an index HTML file. You drop these files onto any basic web server and they work immediately. If you do not want to manage node packages or local files at all, you can embed those exact same static assets into an empty web page using a content delivery network like Unpackage. You add a standard HTML style tag pointing to the Swagger UI CSS file on Unpackage and a script tag for the JavaScript bundle. Then you write a short initialization block in JavaScript that points to the web address where your OpenAPI file lives. The browser loads the empty page, fetches the assets from the network, retrieves your specification, and renders the complete interface automatically. Here is the key insight. You do not even need to write HTML to deploy this interface. The cleanest and most scalable method is using the official Docker image. You simply pull the image named Swagger API/Swagger-UI. Running it entirely out of the box will load a default pet store example. To serve your own local file instead, you mount your specification into the container as a volume. Then you pass an environment variable named Swagger_JSON, pointing it to the exact path where you mounted that file inside the container. First, you execute the Docker run command and map an exposed port like 80 to your local machine. Next, you map your local directory containing your swagger.json file to a directory inside the container. Finally, you set the Swagger_JSON environment variable to target that specific internal path file. When the container starts, it spins up a lightweight web server, reads your environment variable to locate the specification, and serves the UI. You get a fully functional documentation portal running in seconds without installing a single local dependency. By decoupling the documentation rendering from the API source code itself, Swagger UI turns a static text contract into an executable testing environment that travels seamlessly across any infrastructure. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me. Until next time, take it easy.